A homebrew kit from Tiny Rebel? Where has this been all my life? Let's check out what's in the box.
Here I am where the movie started, facing at a photo they've taken. Space tree flying through the skies and battles happen everywhere.
We've got a cheeky Welsh Red Ale going on today, which has citrus and tropical fruits dominating the taste, that is backed up with caramel and roasted malt flavours to balance the moderate bitterness. Now, I mean, that sounds absolutely awesome, and I'm a huge fan of craft beers. Tiny Rebel, Northern Monk, definitely kind of up there with the best of them, and also Fierce Beers, not to forget those guys up north. But anyway, let's see what's in the box, shall we? I've not even had a peep in on this myself yet, but let's see what we've got in here. Some nice branding from these guys, as always, with all of their stuff. So we've got some Citra hot pellets. Got 56 grams of Citra. We've got some Columbus hot pellets. That's 60 grams of those. We've got 6 grams of American ale yeast. And 12 grams of American ale yeast in total. Brewing instructions. And 2 tins of the good stuff, liquid malt extract. As always, start the brew, we're going to get everything cleaned, sanitised, all assembled and ready to go before we start on the brewing staffs. Steriliser, as always, going with the Star San acid-based steriliser, and pairing that with some Ashbeck water just from Tesco, which has pH just below neutral, so again, perfect for this. Massive benefit to Star San is that it is kind of no rinse, so there's no faffing about. You can just spray it on, let things soak, and it's a nice easy job done. Once the Star San is all in there, you just want to give it a good shake just to disperse that in the water. And then we're just going to go straight in and decant it into our spray bottle. Basically, from this point on, anything and everything that's going to be coming into contact with the booze just needs to be thoroughly cleaned and sanitised. The last thing you want to be doing is risking getting an infection. So we've got our fermenter all cleaned and sterilised. Next thing we want to be doing is getting that kettle on the boil and getting our 2 tins of liquid malt extract all in a hot water bath to soften up. One thing that's a little bit different with this kit is also 1 sachet of each of the hops, both the Columbus and the Citra, actually going prior to you starting the fermentation. So they're going to go into the fermenter at the start, along with a litre of boiled water, and then just left for 5 minutes just to steep. Those hot pellets smell absolutely amazing. So we're going straight in with the hot pellets. And then in with our litre of just boiled water. And then we're going to cover that and leave that for 5 minutes to work its magic. The cans have been in the water bath for around about 5 minutes, which is just helping soften up that liquid malt extract. And now we want to take them out and crack those bad boys open. Just be careful because the cans can get a little bit toasty, so sometimes it's worthwhile using a tea towel just to move those around. Okay, so our hops have had 5 minutes, steeping through nicely. So we're just going to go straight in with the liquid malt extract. Massive benefit to just standing these in hot water for 5 minutes, because otherwise this stuff is thicker than treacle. As you'll be able to see, there's quite a lot of stuff left in there, so we'll just pour some hot water in just to rinse the rest of that out. With this, just going to pour some boiling water in there. And then just give that a few minutes, and in the meantime we're going to go straight in with our next can of liquid malt extract. I have to say that hot water has not made this look too pleasant right now. And again, exactly the same process as before, still quite a bit of LME left in there. So all we're going to do is top that up with hot water again. And then just give that a few minutes just to loosen up. So these tins are currently molten hot after being sitting in boiling water for a few minutes. So definitely advisable to use a tea towel for this next bit. And all we're doing again is going straight in to the fermenter. Usually they'll need a few rinses just to get all of the liquid malt out. Alright, so we've got our tins filled up, hot water again, and just give them a quick blast with a spoon just to try and clear as much of that out as possible. And I think we're pretty much good on that, nice and clean. I'm just careful of the liquid malt extract because it can be super syrupy and sugary. It's not the best to be cleaning off stuff. And again, all good to go on that. So now, all we need to do is sanitize a long spoon, and then we just want to make sure all this liquid malt extract is all dissolved in and stirred in. While you're doing this as well, you want to add as much oxygen to the water as possible, so that'll just help the yeast during the fermentation process. So it's the only stage you want to put oxygen in, but giving it a good splash around is not a bad shout. And I'd say we are pretty good on that. Our next step in the process is topping the fermenter up to 20 litres. What you want to be aiming for is a final temperature once you've done that of between 20 and 25 degrees, because it just means we can pitch the yeast better. So at the moment, with all the hot water that I put in there, it's running at about 65. So I'm going to top that up with cold water, make sure that gets splashed around plenty, just to add as much oxygen into the water as possible. And then hopefully we can get on with pitching our yeast. And then we're just going to give everything a good stir, just kind of mix that up. Usually I brew this a little bit short to bump up the ABV and add a little bit more body into the beer. This one is only supposed to come out at 4.6%, so a little bit lower than I usually like to brew. But I'm curious as to what it's going to turn out like, being a Tiny Rebel kit. So we've filled the fermenter up to 20 litres. Now I'm just going to give the Cwtch hydrometer a quick sterilise and drop that in there. Get it plugged in on the Grainfather app just to get all that ticking over. Drop the Cwtch hydrometer in and see where we're kind of at with our starting gravity on things. So our wort is all down to temp, and next thing is just to get these 2 American ale yeast sachets in. So we're going in with 12 grams of this in total. all we're going to do is go straight in with the yeast. The smell of that water is amazing. Then we're just going to re-sanitise the lid and then seal all that up and let it work its magic. Really looking forward to this kit. The starting gravity is coming in bang on the money at 1045, which is what they set it down as, which makes a novel change actually. Most kits do actually end up coming up short. But got the yeast all pitched, everything programmed into the Grainfather fermenter, tilts all set up and ticking away. So now all there is to do, have a nice hard-earned beer and leave it for a week or so just to ferment out, and then we can have a little check and see how that's coming along. So we're just going to let all the hop poo out. Another awesome thing with the Grainfather fermenter is you've got the dump valves on it, so you can actually get a lot of all the trub and sediment without too much drama. It's taken a couple of weeks, but the Tiny Rebel kit is all fermented out and coming pretty spot on actually. It's finished up at 1.010, which brings us in around about 4.59%, so pretty spot on to what they were saying it should get down to. The Day 4 I added the additional hops, so 28 grams of Citra and 30 grams of Mosaic. They were just dry hops dropped in the top and left to disperse through. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've just been doing some trub dumps from the dump valve on the fermenter, which is an awesome addition. Just stops all your beer sitting on the kind of trub, really. But yeah, other than that, it's time to get this kegged, and then we can leave it for a couple of weeks to carb up and do that all important taste test. We are all kegged up and pressured that to around about 13 kind of PSI just to see how that comes out. But I usually kind of tweak that as I go. I have to say the smell that was coming out of that as I was kegging it was absolutely amazing. I think this one's going to be particularly special, and obviously poured a little snifter. And the kind of citrusy pineapple-iness is just really coming through there. Quite heavily bitter at the moment, but you know, that's does need to carb up and a little bit of conditioning time. I think that's going to be a pretty good brew actually. So yes, we'll leave it for a couple of weeks and then come back and see. It's been one of those interesting brewing days today. So got a California Merlot on the go at the moment. Thought, you know, I just got a couple of additions to do, like a bit of degassing, half hour, job done, life is good. No. So the dump valve ended up getting clogged up, and I ended up losing a few litres of that 5-gallon batch all over me, all over the walls, floor, worktops, everything. So that was fun. But I did remember that I had that Tiny Rebel beer that has been carbing up, but I've not actually hooked up as yet. And I think Tiny Rebel Cwtch, which is also Welsh for cuddle, and that definitely sounded like it was needed right now. So it combines 6 malts and 2 US hops. I think this is going to be awesome because I love Tiny Rebel stuff, but this was one where the first batch of hops went in at the start of the fermentation. So in essence, they were in there for probably about a couple of weeks. So I'm expecting quite a lot of bitterness, which hopefully won't be the case, but we'll see. So here we have Tiny Rebel Cwtch, or cuddle, which comes out pretty dark actually. It's slightly have slightly overcarbed it, but I'll get that dialed down. So there's a lot of maltiness on the nose. That's quite an interesting one actually. You've got quite a lot of heavy caramel coming through, but then also some zesty light freshness, but very, very kind of mild. And then it follows it up with quite a big hit of bitterness, but overall it's actually quite well balanced. A little bit too much bitterness for me, but it's actually quite well balanced overall. That's pretty nice actually. So it could do, I think, with a little bit more of the citrusy flavour coming through, just to dial back the hop bitterness, but I really do like that. So I'm going to enjoy this and try and forget about how bad today has been, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.